people coming with billion ideas, and all of them feels like money on the floor, and you do want to focus on a like core value proposition, giving the user the best experience on this one thing, rather creating toolkit of 3,000 features. It's very, very easy to fall into that trap.
Welcome to the Lubo Smid podcast. I'm your host, Lubo, co-founder and CEO of STRV. Here to talk to the industry leaders from the tech and startup space and ask them about their tips and tricks they use to operate at the top of the game. Today, I'm happy to welcome Uriel Maslansky, co-founder and CEO of Atly, a fast-growing startup helping us discover wonderful real-world locations. Uriel has been obsessed with technology since the very, very young age. He also has experience coming from Israeli defense forces, and I think that shaped him up to be a strong leader of a startup as well. With more than $18 million of funding and community that extends more than 120,000 people sharing the best locations in the real world, Uriel really shapes the future of location-based recommendations. So let's hear it from him and dive into the discussion. And we are rolling. Welcome, Uriel.
Hi. Good to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining me. I was very excited for the conversation. And just to kick things off, I wanted to ask you, how would you describe the current state of recommendations of real-world places?
Oh, wow. That's an interesting question. I think people do an incredible job recommending places between their friends on social networks. It's just not that easy to find them later. The recommendations are there on Reddit, on Facebook, on Instagram. Just when you fly, you need to start like searching and collecting the pieces together.
This is such a, topic close to my heart because, of course, I love to travel. I think majority of the people love to travel in the end. But for me, it's like I'm obsessed with searching for the hippest areas and places to visit. And, everyone has different taste, but that's where I was very much looking forward to the conversation to dive into the head of someone who is actually pushing that forward, because I find the current set of tools and applications working very subpar when it comes to the level of experience that I get out of that as a user. And we at STRV have been building different kinds of digital products for almost past 2 decades, and I wish there would be a great solution for recommendation, but I feel like, this is really fragmented across multiple different channels. And that's why I'm very excited to chat about Atly and what you guys are building and how you might be approaching things a little differently.
Yeah, so I'll tell you a small secret. Almost every user we talk to says the same thing you just said. I'm very unique about I'm one of those, I'm looking for the best to go, and it's important for me to be on the best place every time I go somewhere. So we hear that a lot, I gotta say. But yeah, it's great to see. We feel the same. We share the same problem. We are all, want to make sure that when we go somewhere, when we travel, but also in our city, we go to the best places. We love to find incredible places and share those recommendations with others.
Yeah. One interesting point of view from my side is that, yes, I mentioned that I'm looking for the best places, but that does not mean that the places that I would perceive as the best one are the same places that you would perceive as the best ones, right? It's it's different for everybody. And that's why I think that different people look for different things.
Right. So you're describing here probably one of the biggest issues with the current solutions. People are going to platforms like Yelp or Google Maps, Apple Maps, between them control almost 100% of the market. And finding general recommendations that basically make them not trust them. They can't trust. And it's because, as you said, we're not looking for the same things. We're not thinking the same about things. We are sharing thoughts and like we're looking for same places as others, but not necessarily with the general. And that's exactly why people are so fascinated with the current reviews that people see. Yes, like the idea that the place got thousands of reviews and everyone says it's 4.3. So what? For me, it's 4.3. For you, do I trust these people? Do I think like them? Are we looking for the same things? That's literally the problem with what we are having right now in the market.
You have quite a deep background in military intelligence, and I would love to hear from you. What was kind of the inception of the idea behind Atly and how you would transition from working for the military to actually be building your own startup in this particular field?
Yeah, so when I finished the army, I decided that I don't wanna stay in the intelligence world at all. I would say our case is very rare, very unique for the Tel Avivian ecosystem, which mostly because of the army is very focused on B2B and cyber stuff. And B2C companies, it's a market that grows right now, but it's still a very small portion of the Israeli ecosystem. And we decided we wanna go for B2C. Another reason I think also that we see change for that is because Israel used to be kind of like the startup nation and fast exits. So people were coming with ideas, started selling the product and sell the company really quick. And we're changing now to be, a lot of people say, the scale-up nation. B2B plays are usually faster. You're selling, you're making a few $1 million ARR, and you have an opportunity to sell the company. B2C is a scale-up way before you make significant money. And I think we see those two changes coming together. Both more and more B2C companies starting, and also later stages in Israel. So yeah, we decided we want to focus on a big, like world-changing problem. We were looking into problems for a very long time until we understood that we should jump to the water with one of the hardest problems. Many people tried to solve it before. No real success around that, and which is the location-based crowdsource, location-based knowledge sharing. At the end of the day, we are used to find every single piece of information around our fingers in a few seconds over the internet, and we still can spend 20 minutes looking for the right jazz club in Chicago, and still go out with not 100% sure we're going to the right place. So that's the problem we started with.
Yeah, and like as you mentioned, even like the big guys in the industry tried it and did not really succeed, right? There is, I think, a whole lot specificity when it comes to making the right recommendation. What would you say is your secret sauce to make recommendations that are super relevant to a person?
Yeah. There are a lot of reasons why when we look back and we try to meet and learn from all those approaches and understand why they failed. But there are a few differences. I think one is the marketplace problem. A lot of those were solving a problem where you barely have you don't have a lot of information, you barely have information, and you try to overvalue in very early stage. It's a classic marketplace issue. And the second thing is yes, some of them made a lot of those approaches were around person-to-person recommendations, friend recommending, following a specific influencer. And when we talk about that, we see that it's not giving the value people are looking for. At the end of the day, people go to Reddit, people go to Facebook groups, and trust the group of their friends over a specific recommendation by an influencer. In our secret sauce, I would say that the basic one is to start with a community approach. The community approach means that it's groups, not you trust a group, you don't trust someone specific. And the second thing is that you trust like-minded people that thinking like you and looking for the same place. And the third thing about the marketplace issue is the idea when you talk about a group, I don't need to give you value. I don't need to supply value for everything. If I'll be only, Lubo, you are eating only gluten-free and I'm giving only gluten-free places, for you, it's a game changer. You're going to use Atly for every gluten-free, anytime you need gluten-free. Yes, for 99% other things you're looking for, you look for the other alternative because let's say they don't exist on Atly. But over time, you have one reason and it becomes another reason and becomes another reason. And you over time accumulate more and more reasons to come back to the platform and use it for use it to find the place that you are looking for. It's going to be your favorite go-to. And we see it all the time. 90-something% of our users being invited to the platform by a friend, by a community manager for one single reason. But over time, they find, more and more and more communities, and they stay for many more reasons.
Is part of it knowing your customer extremely well, so you actually know the preferences, so you don't have, they don't need to like set up all the filters and everything every time they search for something, or do you differentiate anyhow on that front?
Yeah, I'll tell you, we're giving personalized experience, obviously, and it's getting better every version. I don't think this is the secret sauce. If like a lot of the other platforms are giving that personalized experience. At the end of the day, the secret sauce here is the wisdom of the crowd. The idea that if we continue with the gluten-free example, I know one gluten-free place to recommend, and you know one, another guy recommend another gluten-free place, and together we're creating kind of like an entire gluten-free community for everyone. And at the end of the day, when tens of thousands of people sharing gluten-free recommendations, together we created an asset that nobody else can have. It's much better from you, if you'll come to Tel Aviv and you tell me, recommend me a gluten-free place, I'll give you one or two recommendations that I know. But right now, if we're talking about gluten-free, we have hundreds of thousands of recommendations around the world, and they are all completely different, created by different people. And you can see, this place recommended 30 times, this place was recommended one time. This one is obviously better. And the wisdom of the crowd piece is what makes the difference here. So the community of like-minded people who are recommending places together. We have more than 7,000 communities around the world about basically every single topic you can imagine. We get surprised every time we see and look on new communities. And what's between all of them is just a lot of people who each of them has one small piece of the puzzle, and together they're creating kind of like this trustworthy feeling, trustworthy experience of finding a place that you're like, going back to our jazz example, when you see thousands of jazz recommendations being recommended by jazz musicians, you're like, oh my God, this place is a place I want to go to. And there is something that is a little bit, is also better, but second place, but it's closer, so maybe I'll go to this one. But at the end of the day, it's very clear to you who are the people who recommended and what's better than the other.
Are there any particular topics that you focus on more? Because you mentioned gluten-free, that like the amount of data that you have, it would be enough to create a gluten-free kingdom. Now you mentioned jazz music, for example. Like, are there any of these topics or areas where you see, okay, they drive a lot of traffic, a lot of interest, so we double down on those? Yeah,
first of all, we don't double down on anything. It's all created by people, for the people. It's all wisdom of the crowd. We are not really controlling what are the communities that are being created. The biggest communities are the communities that just created first, for just the one reason that all the communities are growing over time and more people joining more communities. Related, like there are so many examples. Like Some of them are super niche. Open fields for truck drivers to park their trailer for free at night, and you have like natural spring, huge map for natural springs, and you can filter if I want it cold or hot, clean or not, being updated all the time. Graffiti is huge. We do see that like a lot of like the original successful communities were like huge, big frustrations of people. Like gluten free is an example that like was one of the first, because people literally looked for a solution for that and created one of the first communities on our platform. Now we see more and more communities that are kind of like addressing more obvious things, but on a different context. So I'll give you an example. Coffee. Coffee is pretty obvious. If I'll tell you, hey, find me a coffee spot, it's gonna be pretty easy. But when we look for coffee place, I'm not necessarily. Well, sometimes I'm kind of like
Yeah, you have a big coffee person right here. I just wanted to say.
Okay, that's incredible. So coffee is an example. Like, yeah, to find a coffee place is okay, but to find an amazing espresso place is harder. And sometimes we all kind of like convert a lot of real reasons we're looking for information to like coffee. It can be a good espresso. It can be brunch. It can be a place to work with my laptop. It can be good Wi-Fi. It can be good ambience. It can be a lot of, and all of them, I'll call them a coffee shop. And when I go to the platform that I have right now, I'll just call it coffee and I'll get the general solution, where sometimes I want the best place to work with my laptop or the best espresso in New York, which is unfortunately hard to find. And a lot of, and my co-founder, the New Yorker guy, will say that it's hard to find good American coffee in Israel. So he's using the American coffee, the Black coffee lovers community here in Israel to find good like American coffee. At the end of the day, we see over time more and more kind of like obvious subjects and common subjects, but being taken through a different angle and gives more value.
Yeah, and like the detail is entirely missing, right? Because one person can say, okay, I'm looking for a coffee place, but for me, like if I want good coffee, I mostly drink filter coffee, so I want that, right? Or like some specialty coffees, and like it goes a lot deeper than just tell me what the best coffee shops are, because that, again, to what we said initially, can mean different things for different people.
Exactly. So you touched 2 points in one sentence. One is like, definitely we're giving you value just by giving you the best coffee, filter coffee. And I'm not sure what's the filter coffee community situation in Europe, but you can.
It's pretty strong.
No, I'm saying community on Atly for that. But you can try and look for a strong community for that. But also, as you mentioned before, the personalization. The more you recommend, the more I know about you, the more I'll be able to recommend you as a platform, better places that will face your needs. And that comes together. You come because you find information on Atly that you cannot find anywhere else, but you stay over time for just because the experience getting better every time you join it, you use it.
Well, you have managed to raise quite substantial amount of money, $18 million to be exact. And so that means that, there is likely good traction that you have. Are there any particular locations, or how do you get the product to the market?
Yeah, so we're very fortunate to have incredible VCs who support and trust us and believe in what we build here. It's been an incredible journey. Most of our market is in America, particularly in New York. There is most of the traction just because we started there. And as I said, like every time you put a little, you put a little spark, and we created like a viral platform that grows over time. So we never spend $1 on marketing. All our growth being organic. It's user inviting users to the platform, not for any reason beside, hey, like here is the best dating places. We have an incredible dating community in New York, for example. If you want to find for a good date spot, that's definitely, hey, like, check it out. And as I said, more than 90% of the users on the platform are just being invited. That's how we grow.
How did you take it off the ground initially? Like with the first launch, pretty much?
Yeah, so first in the beginning, we created the first community by ourselves. It was in Israel. But since then, we reached out to a few community managers in New York. We reached out to 10 community managers. We told them about what we do. They all got very excited. We helped them kind of on board and create their own map. And the second they started inviting their users, you see their user joining the platform, not only recommending places, between their users, you see more and more maps being created, but just by those users who got to the platform by the invitation of the community manager. And it's kind of like a flying wheel, which grows itself.
I feel like there is really a massive opportunity with providing relevant recommendations. And as we discussed earlier, many of the big guys attempted, but so far it does not seem that there would be a solution that would serve well everyone. How would you describe the competitive landscape when it comes to maybe other products that are at its inception? How do you look at it from someone who is building it from the ground up, pretty much?
Yeah, so we divide our competitive landscape into three main categories, I would say. The first one is location-based sharing, but not on a map. You can share places recommendations and somehow find them on Reddit, on Facebook, on Instagram. All those platforms are kind of competing with us on finding and giving recommendations. The other category is the exact opposite, which is the mapping platforms that barely has the wisdom of the crowd or the community aspect. If we talk about Google or Apple Maps, Yelp, solutions like that are super location-based, but very limited and still not giving the trust that you are looking for. And the third and the most interesting category of competitors is what we call the niche apps. What are they? We have thousands of direct competitors or one specific niche. Example, Find Me Gluten Free. If we're mentioning the gluten free, there is an incredible app called Find Me Gluten Free. There is an app, Kosher Near Me. There are many, I can't even list, but there's so many apps that doing what we do for one specific reason. And we're very proud. We're very, very proud with this competitor because it shows, one, how big the market is, and two, the idea that the bar is so high to build an app for that. You need to spend, I don't know, at least $100,000, and you need to have your server cost, and it's a lot of work, and still thousands of people do it. And you can go to Atly and get better technology with network effect with existing users for free, and we just lower the bar to nothing. So that's we really like we always excited when we find more and more and more location-based niche apps.
And how do you look at the world of AI when it comes to providing the most relevant recommendations? Other than just, it seems like the majority of your focus is really crowdsourced data that are filled in by real people. But what we have seen recently with the latest developments in AI is that it can be extremely powerful, and as it advances, the recommendations that are being provided can be pretty good as well. So are you tapping into it? Are you somehow thinking about integrating?
Yeah, so we're very big in AI. We're leveraging AI a lot. We still all the base of the database, the base of the information is all created by the wisdom of the crowd. But we're definitely looking into AI and have integrated of AI tools into the platform for, as we mentioned, personalization, for allowing you to find the real quote. At the end of the day, we're a type of a searching platform. I need to know that when you look for Scotch, you basically look also for whiskey recommendations. We do use a lot of AI for that, but definitely not to generate the recommendations themselves. We from time to time we joke and we play with generative AI and asking them for recommendations. Sometimes it works. Most of the time, it's just locking the data. You know what I mean? Like at the end of the day, it's incredible everything going on with the AI right now, but it's still missing the wisdom of the crowd to give the piece of the information that is missing.
Just to take a crystal ball for a little bit and maybe try to picture the difference between what Atly looks like today and what you would like to see a year from now with some of your plans that you have for the future. What do you see there?
Yeah. Wow, there are a lot going on. I would start with the general. We are growing exponentially. The data is growing exponentially. So in a year from now, you will just have much better recommendations for many more topics around the world. I think this is the most important thing. This is what we're looking at. This is the reason why users come to this platform, and that's why they stay. We do build a lot of tools and making the platform better. Every time we're getting a lot of requests from users for new features. But the main focus is definitely to make sure that in a year from now, the experience will be completely different just because it will have much more information. As I mentioned, we are seeing more and more lately like maps communities around things that we thought when we started this company a few years ago that are more like generic. Hey, who cares about brunch spots? And you see how huge the brunch became a community of a brunch in New York. We see, as I said, coffee that we thought it's pretty obvious. It's not obvious at all, and etc. We see more and more context. We call it context communities, where there are like most of the places are pretty obvious, but the idea that it's recommended for jazz. This coffee shop in the middle of Manhattan is pretty unique. We do build a lot of tools around community managers and gathering information. We're about to launch a feature. We just finished beta testing it. We're very, very excited about it, called Ask Around. It's an incredible integration with Instagram. It allows community manager to create an asset to Instagram and ask for recommendations from their users. In a few clicks, gather all this information into their platform. You got to see it in order to really like it's magical. You literally like have a community manager say, "Hey, we're in a community, let's say, of RV campsites. Hey, I'm going to France. Any great campsites recommendations?" And people give incredible recommendation to this community manager, and all those recommendations being added directly from Instagram without leaving Instagram directly into the platform. So all those recommendations from the users are being kept for future use. We are building another exciting integration with Instagram that we're getting a lot. Is the complete opposite direction. People finding incredible videos on Instagram of amazing recommendations, but they're losing them. They're taking screenshots, they're writing in their notes app, and they just want to share that with our app. And we are working right now on a tool to allow them to share it with our app and save it on the right place on their map just for future use. You know, like I don't need today a bar in Barcelona, but I might need it next time I visit Barcelona. I want to keep it in the right place. A lot of building around monetization, more and more around that. We didn't plan to enter the monetization world that early, I would say, but it's being asked so many times for community managers that understand the potential of like, oh, I can make a lot of money out of this platform. We're beta testing a few areas, a few directions there. That's kind of like what's in the pipeline right now.
No, it all sounds exciting, and definitely looking forward to get my hands on those new features and try them out.
Thank you.
Would there be a right assumption that you are building Atly at least a little bit for yourself as well?
Definitely. I think they were two kind of like wow moments in the process. One is that the second we saw the first communities growing like crazy and being used like crazy, and we're like, okay, there is something here. But those first communities weren't relevant for us. We were building those communities for others with the idea that later on it will be relevant for us. And the second exciting moment in this journey was the second we were like started using it for ourselves. We were like looking. I remember that we were sitting in my co-founder's apartment in New York, and we were looking to go out for a good scotch. And we said, oh, let's use Atly. And he said, dude, I know every single place in my neighborhood. I live here for years. I'm entering the Scotch community. We found a place. He said, I never heard of that. That's a bug. We have an issue if it's probably doesn't exist anymore. And we decided to trust the platform and go there. And we found an incredible place, and we were like, this is amazing. And yes, we use that platform all the time. Another funny story about that we didn't trust the platform is we found one of the QA sessions we saw in New York, a museum that was tagged, recommended for so many times for like nightlife, and we're like, okay, something is off here. And we went to this museum, and I'm like, hey, is there any nightlife here? And at the front desk, they were like, yeah, we have the rooftop. It's closed here, but it's incredible at night. And we're like, okay, it works. Thank you. And
wow.
that was cool.
So I wanted to ask you, what were some of the most helpful recommendations that you personally have received on your own platform? But seems like you already mentioned a couple.
Yeah, I'm a big jazz lover, so I use it for jazz. We used it for whiskey a bunch of times since then. I live in Israel most of the time. So in Israel, we have a huge natural spring community that well known here. A lot of people use it. I keep kosher. That I use this platform for finding kosher places all the time. Incredible kosher community all around the world. Those are the main use cases, I would say. But sometimes you look for rare things and find surprising places.
Well, I will have to pay a closer attention to the app and maybe check out what are some of the cool places that I should visit around Prague or when I'm back in the US.
That sounds incredible.
I wanted to also ask you about what's the startup ecosystem like in Israel, and because I hear it a lot, and I know a lot of successful startups and companies are from there. Seems like the local community is thriving. So how does that influence you and motivate you to push harder?
How does it motivate me? Look, I live in Tel Aviv, which is even stronger around that. And I would say that half of my friends work or have a startup and the other half investing in startups. So it's very hard to escape this ecosystem. Is surrounding us all around. Look, it's very, very exciting to see Israel growing like that, to be a place we used to be able, like Israel, it's before my time, but there were days that people had to go to America in order to raise money. We have incredible VCs here. We have incredible companies growing, big names, getting public. We are very, very excited about what's going on here.
Are there any particular areas where you feel like the community in Tel Aviv is really strong because it's ranked, I think, number 5 startup ecosystem in the world, so very high up?
Yeah, so I think a lot of it is it comes because of the army. Everyone is mandatory. The army is mandatory here in Israel. Everyone does the army. A lot of people doing technology. The army became very, very technology, not only for intelligence, for a lot of things. So people, like you take young people, they finish around when they're 21, and they have a lot of technological experience already. They have a lot of experience on solving issues, like had to face with some hard and hard problems, and like that's what creates that uniqueness of so many people like coming together and wants to change the world. I think also Israel is surrounded by countries that not necessarily are friendly to us, and like we are in a situation that that's the only way to export. You either take a ship and go through the entire Mediterranean, or you export software, and that's kind of like one and another reason for a lot of people to go and build software tools for that. Like importing and exporting is smaller and less exciting for us.
And how did you establish strong ties between Israel and the US? Because you mentioned you have a co-founder in New York, you have majority of your user base in the US, and I feel like it's not that common that people would have it easy to directly focus on one of the most competitive markets in the world and achieve success remotely. And I can speak from my own experience that, it was myself and my co-founder moving over to California to actually make a meaningful progress on our journey. So I know what's behind it, and would love to hear from you how you have navigated that on your front.
Yeah, so I think as a B2C company, we need to think like Americans, but we don't necessarily need to be foot on the ground in the US. We have like a lot of product in our product team. People sit in our New York office, product design, copy. That's we found something that is more important, which makes it challenging because the development is in Israel. But like we're not a B2B company where you need a sales, like your VP sales sitting in New York or like in the US and looking for deals. Yeah, that's kind of like how I would describe it. We decided to focus on this market just because like we're here for challenges. We felt like the Israeli market is easier for us and not necessarily representing our success in America. And we're like, okay, we wanna face the real thing. So we focused on America almost from the beginning. Yeah, we are we interview a lot of users. So we talk to a lot of users every week, and their feedback is incredible, and that's part of making this product better every version. Yeah.
How do you navigate the product journey to make sure that on one side you listen to your users, but on the other side you also make the decisions that are aligned with your high level vision, right? Because like what I often find is that maybe you don't have the right people using the platform that are sharing the feedback with you, and I feel like especially in the early stages you need to be carrying out that vision and making sure that it comes to fruition, and you can't really listen to every piece of feedback at the same time.
Yeah, so that's an incredible question. I would say a few things. One, we're big wisdom of the crowd people. So we do trust a lot of others and users' opinion. You not necessarily trust one user's opinion, but when you get the same feedback again and again and again, it's usually aligns with your goals. Another thing, it's all big numbers, and these platforms, the decisions are being made based on data mostly. That's where we decide where to focus, where not to focus, what's good enough, what's not good, what needs to be improved, what are the features that are working well, and also using the users to understand how to make it better. And the other thing, I think one of the reasons we are there is a third issue with interviewing users, which is because the problem we're solving is heavily requested, and there is not even like there is nothing good in the market right now. People coming with billion ideas. We have a lot of them, and all of them feels like money on the floor, and all of them are good. And what we are having hard time with sometimes is to keep it simple. And you do want to focus on a like core value proposition, core flow, giving the user the best experience on this one thing, rather creating a toolkit of 3,000 features, which it's very, very easy to fall into that trap in our eyes.
How do you make the decisions on those fronts, and what's the support for yourself within the team to make sure that you do navigate the product journey correctly? How do you have the organization set
so
up?
Our method is it's a very complicated method. We flip a coin, and whatever
like that.
I'll tell you, a lot of the times on product decisions, our opinions are just opinions until we meet the market. So most of the times when we have a thesis, we're going to build it and we're going to ship it as fast as we can to start getting data. We always set the questions before we start building and set the goals before we start building, because you kind of like become biased after you launch. And we measure and we learn. It's a very, very fast cycle. We try to do it 2-3 days cycles of like building, shipping, learning. There are some companies who does it in 2-week cycles, where we started with and we felt like, oh my God, we can't run too slow. It means that we sometimes build half-baked features, but on the other hand, we are not wasting our time on features that are completely irrelevant or not going to work, etc. And the second we understand that there is something into one of the features, we deep dive and we build it. We more and more investing into that feature. So that's kind of like the main rule. The second rule, as I said, is like data. We have nothing to do beside that. Most of the decisions that we make about priority is about what's the impact of one feature over the other. So you can assume that improving the settings screen will have a little bit less impact than improving the onboarding. And we are measuring and prioritizing every single feature over the other. That's why we always joke that we build a roadmap, but then like there are more and more exciting features that like prioritize over the others, and the roadmap being changed like a million times. I would say there is nothing smart to say. It's just an opinion unless we test it, and we try to test it as fast as we can.
Yeah, I find it very impressive that you manage to do these tests within the matter of days, while having a decent traction of the app, right? Because you already have quite some users, and you need to make sure that also things don't break.
Right. So we don't launch everything to everyone. Most of the things we don't. And like we have a big beta testers group that we test with. We consult. We run user questionnaire, user testings for almost everything before we start developing. That solves a lot of the issues. I'm sure you are experienced with that as a designer, somebody who came from the design world. So that's also really helpful. Look, I wouldn't say that 100% of the features take a few days. We have like
I can imagine
some of the features are heavy technology, but I truly believe that most of the things you can understand within a few days if worth investing in them or not. And if you like most of them, you don't even need to build the entire feature. You can build a mock-up and ship it to the users and let the users think it's a feature and see how they react, and then give them like coming soon or we'll follow up with you or whatever. And we do it a lot. Let users will play with mock-ups and like feel they're playing with feature to measure what important for us to measure before we even start building it.
It's great to just get an insight into how you have things set up on your end, because I think that having this rapid pace of shipping out new things really helps to uncover the full potential of the product.
Yeah, we have no choice. I'll tell you, it's not that we're choosing that. It's impossible without it.
What's your point of view on the current trends when it comes to innovation and like everything that is happening in the tech world?
Wow, I'm not a big trends person. I would say those are trends coming and like going all the time. It's super exciting what's going on with the AI world. Huge opportunities. We're so excited about a lot of the features we build using those tools. Yeah, like I'm more excited about world-changing companies versus on specific trends. You know what I mean? Like sometimes, like when friends come to me with companies, I'm like, do something big. You know, you only live once. That's kind of like how I see it.
Well, if there is one thing that you could change in the world, what would it be?
Oh my God. That's a hard question.
You say, oh,
like, well, yeah. Okay, so I'll go with that. Finding the best play is super easy. You know, that's it. That's a hard enough mission.
I was wondering if I should add the caveat that it should not be related to Atly, but no, I mean, like, I think we collectively agree that this is a huge challenge. This is something that many, if not everyone, struggles with. And I feel like oftentimes when I see ideas that people come up with and ideas that they want to pursue, right? These are problems that no one really has. And I think it's great that you are tackling something that I think very, very clearly is a big problem for a huge amount of people.
Right. So I would say that the easiest part, like the entire process, was we never had to convince anybody about this need. We just show them what we have, and they're like, "Where were you?" You know, it doesn't matter if it's users or community managers. People ask us like, "How do you grow so fast?" Like we just built a product. And like our MVP, when we spoke a little bit about it, our beta went a little bit out of control, more than 100,000 users. And nothing was too crazy beside a big need, a big market. People need it, look for it all the time.
Do you feel like there is a certain level of escape velocity for the product when it becomes a globally adopted go-to recommendation app? Like suddenly, you know, you can place yourself in top 100 apps that are downloaded globally, right? Because like I think that's where a product like this should be when you look at how many people use Yelp and other services, and you have amazing initial traction, but of course, like there is quite some way to establish yourself in, and whatever it is, if it's top 100 apps or top 20, right? There is that potential, I strongly feel like, but what do you think are like the levels that you need to cross to be able to achieve a massive scale?
Yeah. There are many more challenges. We are facing challenges, but as you said, we didn't even start tasting them. We are excited about those challenges. That's the reason we're here. You know, like there are so many of them. I would say mostly the product side and development and technological side of things. A lot of deep technology. We spend a lot of time, a lot of energy about that. I'm sure there are more to come. You know, the more data you have, the more kind of like lighter feeling a user wants to have. Like people don't want to scroll through 2 million recommendations. So that's something that we're getting better at. Personalization is a big thing. The more data you have, the more personalization you can do, and make sure that user not only getting the best information, get it the best information for him. And we won't finish this podcast if I'll start like listing the all challenges we are having and we're gonna have.
Well, speaking of challenges, let's flip it to the personal side for a little bit. What's been the most challenging moment for you personally on this startup journey thus far?
Wow, there are so many of them. I don't know.
I love when people are vulnerable and they share. We talk about successes, we talk about you building out a great successful thing, but I think that these downsides and challenges, they don't get enough spotlight, and it would be great if you can share a few.
Yeah, so I would say I can talk about myself personally. First of all, hiring people. It's a hard process for me. I always feel like I don't know anything. I always feel like I do it good, and then feel that I don't know anything when I finish and we have pretty deep and long interview process. I have 100% success rate, or maybe failure rate will be there, because everyone who I said we shouldn't bring in, and we brought in, ended up to be an incredible employee, an incredible part of it. And the other half that I fought to bring in are not here anymore. So I'm very good in choosing the wrong people there. That's one challenge. I would say, I always ask myself what we can do better. I don't really have a solution. If anybody hears that and you have the solution for me, please reach out. And yeah, that's one thing. The other thing, as I mentioned, one of the biggest challenges is always focus. You think you are focused, but you never focused. And make sure you are not only telling yourself you're focused, and you are literally laser focused on the right things, and making sure that you are going not over developing features, not developing the wrong features, making sure that as you mentioned, taking your features that helping your OKRs. I think that's what I'm asking myself a million times a day. Are we building the right things? And that's a big, I hope it's not even with, at least with the employees, I know when I'm right and when I'm wrong. Here, it's even harder to know. Maybe I should have prioritized it differently. So that's another big challenge. I think, building the right product. We're spending a lot of time making sure that the product, UX, UI, the entire story is compiled, the user journey. Sometimes you just you say, I would add this button. It's not going to change anything. And now 50% of the journey being changed because people clicking this button, and now it changes the entire story, and you need to rebuild it on the right way. Wow. I don't know. Is that enough?
I guess so. What do you do to keep yourself sane while navigating this whole journey?
Look, I would say it's never been easy, but I'm enjoying every moment. It's super fun. So I feel like that's literally
no need to do special things to release some of the tension, or just find your happy place.
I can tell you that I do yoga every day and run marathons, but I don't do any of those. And I just enjoy, and I think we are. By the way, to keep me sane is the wrong term, because I think we are a team of crazy people who are completely insane, trying to to fight on one of the hardest problems that nobody was able to solve before. So we're definitely not sane, but we're loving it.
I love that too. Uriel, let's keep you insane.
Thank you so much.
I think that was the nice finish to our discussion. I enjoyed it quite a lot. And thank you so much for doing that.
Thank you so much, Lubo. I really enjoyed the conversation. I appreciate that.
Thank you so much for listening or watching to the very end. I hope that can only mean one thing. You enjoyed it. And if you did, please go follow, subscribe, or write a review, and it will be tremendously appreciated by our side. There are a bunch of other episodes that you can check out in the meantime, and I'll be looking forward to catching you next time.